Hey guys, Ken here. I've got the third match in this series between NorthChileanG and Arteries. Should be a pretty interesting one. We've seen it go back and forth. Arteries has managed to pull out the last two games. My win counter's not quite working correctly here. My computer overheated while I was casting the last one, so I turned down these graphic settings a little bit, and we're going to try this again. But anyway, we're going to have NorthChileanG. This time, NorthChileanG is going to choose the Cloakybot factory to start out with. We're going to see Arteries in the red trunks with the standard strike commander in the northeast going Cloaky as well. So it's going to be a Cloaky mirror. I really hope that this time Chilean tries to play a more smooth and standard game rather than cheesing his opponent. It's failed twice, and I mean, going forward a third time would just be silly. It might be interesting to see if Arteries does a little bit of cheese himself, just to maybe poke back a bit. Unfortunately, NorthChileanG idling his commander for just a moment, and actually building a solar collector perhaps too early. Typically, you need to build at least 2 of the metal extractors before you go for your solar. I guess he's trying to go for the reclaim here as well, but there isn't actually that much here. But anyway, he builds it early, and that's the path that he's chosen. And we are seeing an early constructor after his 2 glaives, which is the much more traditional opening. Arteries here looks like a single glaive coming up, and then 1 constructor, and then another glaive. This glaive is going to have a little bit of trouble as it meets these 2 in the center. A little bit of retreat micro, and that glaive gets taken out, no problem. 2 glaives now heading straight for Arteries' base. Not really prepared for this at the moment. Actually, no, he's fine. He has a couple of glaives here, a third coming out. The commander right here on the southern approaches, which is where these glaives would head in from. But unfortunately, they're actually idling in the middle of the field. So heading back up north now. It looks like they are going to be trying to sneak around the south side. Not going to work out too well given the commander here. Let me just turn off the lighting effects. That's much better. All right, so it looks like they're about to head up through the south side. Nope. Stationing in a little bit just south, maybe looking to prevent the expansion of this metal extractor here. We are seeing the constructor from NorthChileanG continuing to expand while reclaiming first, but we'll be heading out to expand a little bit more, and NorthChileanG now going to raid out these back mexes here. With a little bit of retreat micro, should be able to do some damage, but oh no, unfortunately, well, I mean, how did this play out? Looks like 2 glaives lost for each player, so certainly not what NorthChileanG wanted, especially since all of that reclaim is now in Arteries' base, although as we saw before, Arteries probably is going to forget to reclaim that, which is a pretty common mistake. You know, can't slide him for that. It seems like it's not much metal, but in the early game, I mean, that if you're going to reclaim rocks, you should certainly reclaim corpses. There's 100 metal there, which is just under 2 glaives, so absolutely worth reclaiming. Another larger group of glaives heading in here. We are seeing more aggression with a bit more of the conservative economic play style that you would expect after a couple of failed cheeses. They're going to take down at least 1 metal extractor, can head on and take out at least 1 more, probably a 3rd even, but they're going to get cornered by this group of glaives here, and this is not going to turn out well for NorthChileanG. Hard to say if he's... Oh, there we go. He makes the quick juke, and he's actually going to jink right back. And, wow, manages to give him the slip. Taking out this 3rd metal extractor, needs to keep running, though. Can't be holding still. And, looks like he's going to head back out the way he came in. Wow, if he can get away cleanly, this is going to be an absolutely perfect raid. A little bit of retreat micro. He's managing to group up on these glaives, too. These glaives from Arteries heading in 1 by 1 into a group of 3. You know, they took out enough glaives there and enough metal extractors. I think that was a profitable raid from NorthChileanG. You can look now with a little bit of light expansion. He's actually now doubling the economy of Arteries. Ooh, but I think this could be a mistake. We're seeing lots of early Rocco spam here, which is not going to go over very well if we continue to see mass glaives from Arteries, which is pretty common on a map like this, where you like a lot of map control, especially in the early game. We're not even 3 minutes in. Building Roccos is, I mean, looks like he's just trying to preempt any warriors that might come out. But I think it's too much of a gamble, especially this heavily, especially this early in the game. See, these glaives are going to have not much trouble tearing apart these Roccos if they manage to catch them undefended. Just 1 glaive here to help defend against this. It's not going to go very well for NorthChileanG, I expect, although he is on the uphill now. It looks like these glaives are going to have a little bit harder time maneuvering heading up the hill than they would otherwise. There's enough Roccos here where this current pack of glaives, I mean, there's almost 800 metal there compared to just under 200 here. So they do overwhelm the glaives pretty heavily by metal. But once this, oh man, see, look, all this reclaim is just lying here idle. Now how much is in the base, by the way? Worth checking out, 500 metal. Wow, that's, I mean, if he reclaimed that and then just churned out glaives, you know, bam, 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 he could get back on par. We are seeing that NorthChileanG has a lot more military on the field, at least at the moment, for being so early in the game than Arteries does, which is interesting to see. I'm not sure what Arteries has been doing. Well, he's been rebuilding his metal extractors, and he was economically behind for quite a while. He's actually pulled ahead economically. He's trying to use some of this reclaim. Oh, actually, just from the metal extractor. Once he digs into that reclaim, though, he's going to be kicking NorthChileanG's butt economically. Looks like a scout coming in here for Arteries. Just run past it. If you're going to scout with just a single glaive, don't mess around like this. Just move order them straight into the base, look around, see whatever you wanted to see, and then get out of there. Doing this is wasting time, wasting APM, endangering your scout, and I mean, you didn't even get any useful information from it either. So not very handy. We do see NorthChileanG has planted a scout right here on this southeastern corner. Pretty common for players, especially newer players, to ignore these corners early in the game, and then whoever just jumps over there the fastest with a constructor usually ends up winning because there's so much economy there. Now these glaives, just like I mentioned, with a large enough force now, going to come in and just tear apart every single Rocco in this line. And well, there you go. That's the standard RPS triangle at work there. Wow, look at that. And all but 2 of the glaives do go down, but the Roccos get taken out as well. If they'd stayed away from the defenders and had a little bit larger value, maybe some better micro, those glaives would have had an even better chance. But I mean, they did perfectly fine in my estimation. We're seeing the commander coming up here to try and assist these glaives. More glaives coming out. A little too much bunching up by the factory here. I would say that this fight order should be moved out closer to the middle of the map, right around there, or something like that. Radar tower coming up for Arteries. Always a good idea to put a radar tower up at the front so you can see what's coming down the pipe from your opponent. Let's take a quick look at the radar coverage here. So he only has visibility in front of this ridge, but that's still handy even by itself. There is quite a lot of pork here on the southern ridge, but that's perfectly fine, really. If Arteries can just contain NorthChileanG to this southwestern pocket, I mean, he'll win with the corners easily. Arteries, or I mean either player really, needs to be heading towards these corner pockets. You usually want to do that as fast as possible. We're about 6 minutes into the game right now, and it's very unusual to not see at least one of the players building metal extractors down here by now. Typically, you'll just send a con over there, maybe one glaive to protect it, put down early LLT, build your metal extractors, and then maybe some more LLTs. And typically even the geothermal gets up, at least in higher level play. But like I said, we're not seeing that here. Instead, a strong force of glaives coming to this northwestern pocket to try and raid it out to prevent Arteries from getting any strongholds. So very much contested territory, both of these pockets. This southeastern one actually has a glaive from each player in it, just trying to make sure neither of them tries anything too silly. Economically, things are very much evenly matched. Militarily, Arteries at a slight disadvantage here, and looking to even increase the gap there if he isn't careful with those glaives. This commander pushing out pretty far, in my opinion, taking a couple of defender shots to the dome, but ultimately going to be totally fine. NorthChileanG has regained control of this northwestern pocket. Could absolutely expand here at this point. Has more than enough military plus the warrior there to defend it, so it would require essentially an all-in from Arteries to dislodge that. Arteries getting completely kicked out of the northwestern pocket, not even able to sit on the ridge like he is down here. Neither player having a constructor out here is very unusual to me. But it is a lower level game, so that's to be expected. Oh boy, and a big charge here. Looks like they're going to try and break through the lines. Arteries' commander is about 75% health, does have the HMG, but NorthChileanG's own commander in a little bit of trouble. Oh boy, and the commander ends up going down. These glaives now coming in to take out the Roccos, just like we saw before. This commander's going to help him out, and there we go. Wow, that's talk about turning the tide. That was a massive battle right there. We saw NorthChileanG trying to be aggressive, trying to punch through the line, but to punch through with the commander right there, really not necessary. He could have taken all those glaives, all those Roccos, and calmly and casually walked them around the side, or even better, since he has control of these pockets, just expand in the pockets. Just hold the front line, expand behind it, and NorthChileanG was poised to win the game. If he can contain, contain Arteries in this northeastern section, keep him out of the pockets, I mean, just on metal production alone, NorthChileanG should have won. But he also had a large enough army to win as well. Instead, he tried to push in the wrong spot, and he ended up getting slapped down. So Arteries now, at this point, almost doubling NorthChileanG's military value, with the commander down as well, of course. Looks like a pretty small raid here by NorthChileanG, really flailing at this point, sort of grasping at straws. That's really unfortunate to see. You know, early aggression, well, this wasn't exactly early, but strong aggression is always fun to watch. Unfortunately, if it's reckless, you won't play out very well for the aggressive player. If you can force your opponent or just essentially bait him into a suicide attack like that, and then, I mean, capitalize on that. Arteries isn't even really doing much to capitalize. He could come down and raid out whatever economy is left here, but he doesn't even have to at this low level. He can just keep his military intact and stop NorthChileanG from doing anything really too useful. And, I mean, slowly do the macro thing. Probably going to come out on top in the end. Still no expansion whatsoever to these northwestern or southeastern pockets here. Super unusual. I mean, in a higher level game, both of these would have been taken by this point, at the very least, probably even contested and destroyed even, I would expect. We're seeing some artillery coming out from Arteries. A little bit of a tongue twister there. It might stall out a little bit. I mean, economically, Arteries is still in a pretty large advantage. Is he still reclaiming this metal in his base? He actually still hasn't reclaimed this metal that's been in his base the whole time. So that's always an option as well. He can use his control of the southeastern corner, which he's just recently regained after that pretty large push there, and build some economy down there. He could build more economy in the central ridge. Let's take a quick look on the F4 screen. Neither player's really done that great of a job of expanding into even their own territory, the territory that's supposed to be essentially given to them uncontested. So certainly an improvement both players could stand to make. If we look here, at least these two metal extractors on the corner from NorthChilean, and probably these ones in the central ridge from Arteries as well. And I might as well stop talking about these corners. It's really unfortunate to see both players ignoring them, or well, not really ignoring them. They are fighting for control somewhat, but they're not capitalizing on the control that they're gaining, or fortifying the position to maintain it for longer. This could be a GG squad unless it, oh no, suicides into the warrior. You definitely don't want that. Yep, it looks like they are going to get chased away after all. Pretty strong army of warriors and Rockos here, a bit more of a composite force from NorthChileanG. Certainly a more mid to late game oriented force. Military is starting to make a comeback, but no, he's not. He's still nearly doubled in military value by Arteries. Arteries is, I mean, has more than enough glaives here to just push forward and end the game. A pretty common thing in low-level play. Once you get an advantage, you're a little bit scared to lose it, so you're not as aggressive as you really should be to capitalize on the advantage, which is something that will come back to bite you as you get into the higher parts of the ladder. If you maintain a more defensive posture, or you fail to capitalize on your big military victories like that, then it is going to come back and bite you. We see that NorthChileanG has had time to rebuild, and is now going for a little bit of a Hail Mary with the gunship plant here as well. No factory switches from Arteries, still playing a pretty standard Cloakybot game. Needs to be expanding more though. Look at these 3 uncaptured metal extractors that have been that way for quite some time now. And, okay, I'm done talking about the corners, guys. And this huge, massive glaives and Rockos that could slowly be, you know, hit and running, pressuring into the base. These glaives, of course, as we saw, will tear apart the Rockos, no problem. The Rockos will tear apart the warriors, no problem. So this is actually the perfect force to take out what we're seeing from NorthChileanG here. And I'm not really sure why NorthChileanG has even built Rockos at all, let alone as many as he has at this point. Maybe looking to use them to clear some pork, which is another sort of secondary unintended use case that Rockos have, but you really wouldn't want that. And especially given that there's so many glaives coming out from Arteries, just building Rockos is, I mean, setting yourself up to have a weakness ready to be exploited by your opponent. It just really makes no sense at all. From Arteries, what we should see is these Rockos trying to kite out the warriors as much as they can. The other Rockos will have to come forward with the warriors, and the warriors will have to focus on any glaives that Arteries might send in to attack them. We're not really seeing that sort of complicated picking apart of the forces. Instead, we're seeing more, wow, ooh, that's ugly. Just 5 glaives suiciding into the warrior over that ridge, no problem. Trying to sneak over the ridge behind a radar shadow in theory, but not really how it was in execution. Let's see here. Now, a pretty big wave of Rockos going to clear out the warriors in the southeastern corner here, which is absolutely perfect. And, I mean, I would hope that Arteries is going to expand behind this, but I have really no reason to believe that he will. It looks like these Rockos are going to be trying to swing out to the west here. And at the same time, pretty large military. How much metal is sitting here essentially completely idle? About 2K. If we don't count the commander, it's about 660, just under 700 metal. I mean, that's a lot of metal to not be doing anything at all. There we go. We've seen a few glaives now on the move, trying to come in and sweep through this Rocko line. A little bit too late now. This warrior's come through to help defend them from that. If the Rockos here can snipe this warrior, then the glaives can come in and take him out pretty much no problem. Or if these glaives can get behind the Rocko line, absolutely perfect. Unfortunately, Arteries' own Rockos are getting a little bit too close to this warrior. They need to be kiting him, otherwise really no point being a skirmisher at all. See, another force coming out over the reach area. I guess this is going to be a little bit longer of a game, and I mean, certainly glad to see it after a couple of failed cheese attempts, but I feel like Arteries has pretty solidly won this game, and we're just waiting for both players to figure it out. At this point, he has doubled the economy of NorthChileanG. I haven't rated out his front line of mexes here, and he's also doubled, in fact tripled at this point, the military value. So I think it's safe to say that this is a good game unless NorthChileanG can pull something out, and it looks like he's going to be going for a Black Dawn. Should be done in about 45 seconds. I was going to 10 speed ahead and just finish the game, but we'll wait to see how that Black Dawn pans out. At the same time, a Sniper now coming out for Arteries. A little bit of a late game move, I guess. I don't really see this being a finisher. I mean, not compared to the massive military he has out on the field right now anyway. To me, it feels like he could essentially take all of his military. If we look at that, it's pretty massive. And, I mean, essentially just fight move into NorthChilean's base. We do see the Black Dawn is up, but it is idling, which is always unfortunate. It looks like he might be trying to mass Black Dawns. interesting decision. Going to be another 5 minutes before this completes, though, at a minimum. Just having essentially no economy whatsoever to work with. And here we see more unclaimed metal. This commander's been sitting out on the field the entire time. It's 480 metal Arteries could have picked up. I wonder if he's ever taken any of the stuff in his base. It looks like he finally has reclaimed the metal that was in his base. It's hard to remember to do all of that, but you really want to be looking out for reclaim since it's a pretty easy advantage. We are going to see this Black Dawn flying out now. Going for what should be the last foray by NorthChileanG. If Arteries can manage to defend against this, then, I mean, the game's essentially over. But NorthChileanG is able to use this really well. He might be able to take out the factory. Might even be able to take out the military if we see the units being grouped up like that. Oh boy, and this must have been scouted pretty early. Arteries actually already built a couple of gremlins, the third one coming out. So these 3 gremlins are going to hard counter the Black Dawn. Black Dawn coming in here to do what it can against this land army. Pretty effective, but it's not going to be up for too much longer. These land units are actually able to attack the Black Dawn as well. At about 30% health, a counterattack coming in here from Arteries. Just this Rocco push alone should end the game. Going to take out this caretaker. Both of these factories are essentially completely undefended. Larger, massive military coming in to deal with NorthChileanG's main army here on this southern ridge. And this is essentially GG. So I will go ahead and skip through here. And it'll just be a matter of time before NorthChileanG throws in the towel there. Alright, pretty interesting game. So takeaways. Well, we did see NorthChileanG play a little bit more of a defensive game. How did he lose? What was the turning point? Because we saw that he had a pretty successful early raid that I thought gave him really good momentum to continue on. So, oh, you know what it was? It was building those Roccos in advance and letting them get taken out by the glaive. There was no reason to switch into Roccos there. If you expect your opponent to go pretty heavy riot, then you can go Rocco spam. But if that's not the case, if you see that your opponent has been going heavy glaive the entire game, you don't want to build Roccos because the glaives will tear them apart. You know, you need to be building warriors, and I guess he was trying to preempt the warrior switch, or maybe even Zeus's from Arteries, but this is just too much of a gamble. He invested too heavily in the Roccos. They ended up being torn apart, as we saw. That let Arteries expand pretty much uncontested for a brief period of time there, and I mean, ultimately, when it came down to it, he out-ecoed NorthChileanG so hard it didn't really matter what NorthChilean did at that point. One thing I would have liked to see more from both players is fortifying, like securing these corner pockets here and building in them, and of course faster reclaim by Arteries after he had won so much reclaim in the battles that went on in his base, and he really defended very well, I thought. I mean, he certainly recovered well from that nice raid that NorthChileanG had in earlier, so he played well overall. He actually went 3-0 in this entire series, which is great. Excellent work there. He defended a couple of cheeses, which is always a good thing. New players are usually pretty vulnerable to cheese. Unfortunately, NorthChileanG, despite his aggression, isn't quite able to capitalize on the benefits that he could gain from it. I think NorthChileanG could actually do pretty well if he focused on playing more of these macro, like standard traditional opening type plays. You know, still early aggression, I do like to see that, and it can serve you very well. But focus more on the macro, you know, because most games are going to go past the 7-minute mark, and when that's the case, if you've cheesed early on, you're going to be so far behind usually until you're really not going to have any hope. So I'd like to see a little bit more sort of long game focus from NorthChileanG. But anyway, it was a pretty good series in my opinion. I really enjoyed it. If you guys have any comments, if I missed anything, if I said something kind of dumb, or if there's anything the players could have done better, let me know in the comments. And other than that, I'll catch you guys next time.